the actual
Sorry, go ahead.
the subhanallah. The reason why is because the proof, in essence, is rooted in something that may change itself. Like, for example, these instance of a day or when the period starts or stops, for
Hmm.
example.
Yeah,
The
it's not. So it's a shara'i proof. So basically, what do we do in a sharia is Allah SWT tells us to do something. Okay, the default is that we're looking for revelatory language and revelatory definitions. I want the Sharia to I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nassan with a nas to explain what He wants me to do and how and when and why. Right? Now, if I don't have that, my my next step is that I'm going to interact with Allah's command with language. So I'm going to say lughatan what is hayd, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't pray when you're on your on a period, on other ahkam to do with a period. I say, Ya Allah, what is a period? No shara'i definition of of what a period is. Okay, so the next step then is lugha. Okay, lughatan, what is a period? No definition vis-a-vis its time and these kind of things. No definition of what it is lughatan. Okay, so then my next stop then is al-ada, al-urf al-ada. That's what I'm going to go to. If I can't have there's no definition in Sharia, then lugha, no definition lugha, then urf al-ada. That's the system that I'm going to use. All right, and given that urf al-ada, mm, does it change? Does it not change? We're not really talking about urf and ada as in terms of practices. We're talking about as human beings. But there's actually huge changes, right? From what I understand, and you can maybe double check. From what I understand, puberty for girls at their time was actually much later. It wasn't like now it's like 9, 10, right? 9, 10, 11, 12. I think it was actually later for them. And there was actually boys were earlier. Boys reached puberty before girls at that time, or at least certain research from about 1,000 years ago indicates that, right? Wallahu a'lam. And so there's issues of obviously genes, there's issues of obviously environment and other things, and then there's issues of also research, right? So Imam Shafi saying like I've never heard of anybody menstruating less than a day, right? Never heard of it. Never heard of anybody who menstruates before the age of 9. Never heard of anybody who menstruates from, more than 15. So, and then some of these things, well, by virtue of the fact that there might be ijma', like as far as like when you get to the specifics, it might be a bit difficult, but there is general ijma' that you can't menstruate for more than 15 days, right? So that's going to now shift from either whatever ijtihad, whatever basis that is independently in the madhahib, now that there's ijma', that's it. You're not going to go like, let's say, for example, you go to the gynecologist and say, yeah, you actually, this is not, what's it called? Um, What's it called? UT, excessive, what's it called? AU something? Abnormal uterine bleeding, AUB. It's not AUB. This is you're on your period. Your period is like this. Your period lasts 16 days. Your period lasts 17 days. Like you're actually on your period, and it's a 17-day thing, right? Um, so if that was the case, as for Allahu Alam, we wouldn't allow that because you can't not be praying for more than half of your life, right? That's something else. But in general, things like, oh, why can't it be 8.5? You know, as far as I mean, just in my primitive, simple reading on Wikipedia, there's girls that reach puberty at 8.5. Um, so here, when we say 9 lunar years, we're saying 8 months and 9 8. We're saying 8 solar years and 8.5 months. That's approximate. That's the minimum basically, which is yeah. Because he was saying 9 times 355 approximately, right? Minus 16, right? Which is, I think, 8 years, 8 months, and 2 weeks, right? Into the solar calendar. So anyway, so if it becomes a norm, what if people, then it should be able to change. Wallahu alam. Just like orf and ada, right? When things change, when things are conditioned upon orf and ada, what do people normally do, right? Can I pick up, can I walk into someone's house? So yeah, if in this culture it's like normal, right? People just walk into each other's houses and it's not considered a private place. You can walk, like parking on someone's drive is considered normal, then it's halal. Parking on someone's drive is not normal, then it's haram, right? But that's going to change with urf and ada, right? خير. Anyway, so that's the issue there. وتراه الحامل قولان أصحهما أنه حيض والثاني أنه استحاضة. وإذا انقطع دم المرأة لزمان يصح فيه الحيض فهو حيض وإن عبر الدم الأكثر فإن كانت مميزة. Okay, so okay, right. So now it says وإذا انقطع دم المرأة, when it stops لزمان يصح فيه الحيض فهو حيض, i.e. even if it's irregular, right? Being regular or irregular is irrelevant. She feels strange, the blood looks different. It doesn't matter as long as it's within the time, right? As long as it's within the time. So again, here's this question. So she didn't have a period for like 2 months. Then her period came back in a really weird way, a weird time. She didn't feel normal. She went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Look, you're not on I can tell, I can check your hormone level. This is not your period, right? This is something else. You actually have a problem, right?" So technically speaking, then the Shafi school, a problem is only a problem if it doesn't fit the numbers. We're not interested in actually whether it's physically menstruation or not, which again is problematic, right? And so again, you could argue that we have to limit the role of the gynecologist. Why? Because a gynecologist and gynecology is not something that's accessible to everybody. So therefore, we're going to limit it to some extent, right? So it's a bit like prayer times. So you look at the prayer times are mathematical and they aren't mathematical, right? They are mathematical in that, you know, you can work things out, you can estimate things, if the sun's there, the sun's there. If it's not, etc. But it's not mathematical in some ways. There are certain mathematical inconsistencies, right? Particularly when you look at the issue of establishing Asr. Establishing Asr, if you look carefully at it, it doesn't actually make mathematical sense. It's like a mathematical easy approximation, but it's not actually accurate. Because it doesn't compensate for the differences it doesn't compensate, quote unquote, properly when for the differences in latitude in longitude. So it's not actually 100% accurate if you were to be a math geek, but it works. It's good enough, right? So just as an example, right? So someone comes along and says, well, instead of relying on the fuqaha, I'm just going to go and get my hormones tested and see if I'm, period happens at this time. Like this is what's going to cause the period. This combination of testosterone and estrogen, and when it's this combination, it's going to happen like that. That's what causes it. There we go. This is high, this is low, and that's what causes it. Oh, it's not higher like that. It's not low like that. Obviously, this is not my period. This is something else, right? So to what extent are we going to let that take the whole place of these numbers and these things? Allahu alam. It's not such an easy discussion. Wallahu alam. But anyway, on a low level that we're dealing with, we're not interested in habit. We're interested in numbers. You didn't have a period. When was the last time you had a period? 3 months ago. Okay, this new period, does it feel funny? Yes, I'm not interested. Does the blood look very thin? Yes, not interested. I'm interested in, does it fulfill the numbers? That's all. Right. لزمان يصح فيه الحيض. خلاص, it didn't go over 15 days, that's fine. فهو حيض. وإن عبر تجاوز إن عبر الدم الأكثر فإن كانت مميزة وهي التي ترى في بعض الأيام دما أسود وفي بعضها دما أحمر كان حيضها أيام الدم الأسود. Right? So now we're going to ask her, your period has gone for 20 days. Okay, let's rewind. Did you notice any difference on your period? She says, yes. The first 10 days, it was dark, it was heavy, and then it kind of stopped, and then it kind of continued. It was very, very thin and light. So now we're going to go back and label, instead of looking at blood and no blood, we're going to look at dark, and light. So the dark is period and the light is not period. So what can happen then is as soon as you get to 15 days and 1 second, suddenly you can certain days will be undone, right? Or it could be other way around. It was really, really light. It came really early and it was really, really light for the first 9 days. And then from day 10 on, it was heavy. So now she's on day 16. So she's actually going to continue menstruating because she realizes in retrospect that the first 10 days was not her period. So she's going to do qada. Later on, she's going to do qada of her first 10 days. But now she's still on her period, right? So the point is, it could be heavy than light or light than heavy. It might change, right?
But isn't it the eye that takes over the color of the tamiz?
No, it does not.
Hmm.
So in the Shafi school,
Okay.
we're looking at the color first. We're looking at what is mushahad first. فإن كانت غير مميزة, she there is not distinguishable. You cannot notice that it was suddenly this or suddenly that. ولها عادة كان حيضها أيام العادة, right? So now, if there's no tamyiz, we're going to go to ada, right? So when was it? So that's why it's very important for women to document, have a diary, right? Know when these things happen, right? And when we say, yeah, so have an idea, when did it come, how long did it last, etc. فإن لم تكن مميزة ولا لها عادة فهي المبتدأة. She doesn't have an ada. This is the first time she's ever had a period, right? And so فهي المبتدأ ففيها قولان. So now this is the first time she ever had a period and it's gone over 15 days. What does she do? And she can't you can't distinguish it. Right? فهي المبتدأ. Right? How do I know it's مبتدأ and not مبتدئة? Just by reading it.
The master time مربوطة, like the time مربوطة at the end.
That's the term مربوط will be there either way. مبتدئة المبتدأة. So she is the begun one and not the beginner. So how do I know it's not? How do I know it's the begun one and not the beginner? How do I know there's mubtadi'a as opposed to mubtada'a?
Because isn't it like out of her control? The mubtada'a meaning she started
Okay,
like
but I'm
herself.
looking at the word. If I look at the word, how do I know
Oh,
to read this? Mubtadi'a or mubtada'a?
mubtada'a. Allah.
Okay, if it was a mubtadi'a, I would write the hamza on a ya, right?
Mhm.
Mubtadi'a, like the in mi'a. So when there's a when the term when it's in the middle and it's preceded by a kasra, okay, it's gonna be on a ya, like mi'a, right? And bitsa,
Mm.
right? It's gonna be on a ya. So it'll be mubtadi'a, be written with a ya, right? Mubtadiyah. So and that's why because I can change it into mubtadiyah with a ya. Mubtadiyah, right? Anta mubtadi, right? With one and there's followed by a ya shaped a hamza on a ya, mubtadi, right? So this is مبتدأة, right? ففيها قولان أحدهما أنها تحيض أقل الحيض والثاني تحيض غالب الحيض, right? So here this is the conflict between if you look at the five huge principles in fiqh, right? المشقة تجب التيسير, الضرورات تبيح المحظورات, اليقين لا يزال بالشك, المحكم العادة محكمة, and what's the fifth? I can't remember now. Something else. Then here we have a conflict. Do I go with the ada? So normally a girl, what is right? Or do I go what is a normal period for a girl of her age? Or do I go with al-yaqeen, which is the minimum? Right? I don't know. Right? قولان أحدهما أنها تحيض أقل الحيض, right? من باب اليقين لا يزول بالشك. Right? So she's menstruating, this girl's first period, she's menstruating 20 days in a row. So now, in retrospect, we're going to go and say the last 19 days, right, has not been period? Or do I say the last, for example, 2 weeks has not been period? Because it's normal for a girl to have a period of, let's say, a week. How does it work? Right? So this, if you notice the same discussion with the halal haram food, right? So I don't know. I don't know. You don't know what my aqidah is, and you don't know if I actually made a good job or not. So you have no yaqeen of my aqidah, no yaqeen of how I slaughtered. And so when I slaughter, how do you know it's halal? So if you go with al-yaqeen la yuzur bil-shak, the asl is that it's haram. Maybe if we left Islam, may Allah protect him. Maybe he didn't do a good job, right? Al-yaqeen la yuzur bil-shak, khalas, I don't know. You could only eat meat that you yourself slaughtered, because you know that you're a believer, yaqeenan, right? Or do we go, with the zahir, with the ada? The asl is this person's a Muslim, and the asl is he slaughters properly, and you know. So do we go with al-yaqeen la yuzur bil-shak, or do we go with al-ada muhakkama, right? So in meat we go with al-ada muhakkama, right? But with najasa, normally we're going to go with al-yaqeen la yuzur bil-shak. So that's why you, for example, go to a public bathroom and just pray on the floor. Even if it's it's adi jiddan that there's going to be najasa on the floor. But that's not the yaqeen. The yaqeen is that the floor is pure. So you walk into a public bathroom, just pray on the floor. Even if it's extremely likely that there's najasa there. Right? Does that make sense? Everyone's following?
Yes.
So have a look if you have time. Look in, I don't know if it comes in other books, but in Ashbah al-Nadha'ir, Imam Suyuti has a whole chapter on this thing about ta'arud al-asl al-zahir. So do we go with the asl, the najasa of a dead animal, the asl, which is bare minimum period is 1 day? Do we go with the al-yaqeen la yazulu b'shak, that principle, the asl, or do we go with the zahir, what is the aada, what is normally the case, right? And so there's 4 scenarios he mentions. When we go with A, when we go with B, etc. When we go with A over B, B over A, etc. He mentions these different scenarios, and it's quite a useful discussion. And it's a subtle discussion, right? And so again, if you can remember, what is the point of fiqh? We're not here to copy, to worship Imam Shirazi, or to be a slave to the Shafi school. We're here to tafaqquh. So it's a good question, right? Here we have 2 conflicting principles. Which do we go with? The relied upon position is that we go with أقل الحيض اليقين لا يزول الشك, right? But the other position has a good point. So it's obviously tricky, right? Okay.
Can
go ahead.
sorry, can I just kind of just to put this together, because I'm a little bit confused still. So if if uh, if she's mumayyiza and
مميزة with a كسر.
مميزة sorry مميزة وليس لها عادة فهي تعمل بالتمييز.
اوكي ولو the مميزة تعمل بالتمييز إن كانت لها عادة أو لم تكن لها عادة, right? Irrelevant whether she has an عادة or not, خلاص. So we ask a question, and so the way they break it down here, let me break it down another way actually, because they usually don't break it down like this. I want to break it down another way.
Okay.
Because he's put mubtada'a underneath something else, which is not normally the way they do that. Give me 1 second, please. Let me stop share here. Let me put it under whiteboard. Okay. I'm just doing it in English, okay? Norm, hello. Habit. So I'm going to say distinguishes. Distinguishes. Yes. No. Right. So here, if she distinguishes, Doesn't matter what scenario it is. So actually, the way they break it down, let me think how they do this in a second. They usually say, yeah, they usually start with مبتدأ غير مبتدأ. So first time, yes, no. Okay, so no. Distinguishes. Distinguishes. Yes. No. Habit. Yes. No. Uh, I'm trying to remember correctly then. Okay, so anyway, so we have here the first time. Yes. So then we're going to ask her again. So I need to do this in a diagram because it's not going to work out like this. It's going to be confusing which questions are being asked or not. وميز I think this should make sense then. معتادة. غير مميزة معتادة. Oh, there's the third category here then. I'll do this. Try this thing's supposed to work. Just put down. Please don't move. Now we've got معتادة and then we've got متحيرة. I'm sure there's a better way to organize this, but anyway, مميزة, they're simple, right? We know what she does. She just acts upon تمييز. غير مميزة. Okay, are you معتادة? Do you have a habit? Yes. Right? And then معتادة, you know it, you don't know it. That's, you can put متحيرة underneath it. But anyway, so غير مميزة, anyway, she is مبتدأة. She goes with 24 hours. Sorry. Yeah, she goes with 24 hours because she has no عادة. معتادة, she has an عادة. She's going to go with her عادة. متحيرة, that's actually that's going to be, she's not مميزة, and she doesn't have an عادة, or she does have an عادة but she can't remember what it is. Right? So now she's متحيرة. So what do you do now? Right? And that's what's going to come up next. Okay? So those are basically the 4 scenarios that you're going to be in. And again, there's some more elegant way of organizing it, but that's basically it. Okay. Okay, so then it says, فإن كانت مميزة وهي التي ترى في بعض الأحيان دما أسود, meaning dark, وفي بعضها دما أحمر, lighter. It doesn't mean red and black, right? Obviously, blood is not black, right? It can actually have, obviously, some very disturbing colors like green and things like that, if it's like in serious infections and all these kind of weird things. But anyway, the point is it's dark or light, right? وفي بعضها دما أحمر كان حيضها أيام الدم الأسود, right? So the fuqaha then list strong characteristics and light characteristics. So there's color, there's strength, there's smell as well, right? And so it's a bit more complex. And so in reality, menstruation, if somebody's like, if I was a gynecologist, right, this is what I would do, is I would study the form of madhahib, or study Shafi fiqh properly on menstruation, and study the form of madhahib. And then there is a bunch of essays on menstruation in the Shafi school, and the minhaj itself is quite detailed. But then there's a risala called Risalat Baq Qushayr. Risalat Baq Qushayr is in the Fatawa of Ibn Hajar, where he actually says, listen guys, there's a lot of the mutun, like the minhaj or the tanbih or other things, don't go into all the details that you could possibly know, or that are needed. And basically, a lot of these things are not found in the mutun to begin with. So there's this essay by somebody called Qushayr, a Yemeni scholar, and he basically goes through and does sharh of it, and that's in his fatwa. So that is kind of like the be-all and end-all of menstruation in the Shafi school. Sheikh Jamia Mia, he studied it with his teachers in Tarim. So if anybody knows of that, knows of Sheikh Jamir, very strong Shafi scholar. He's in the US now, Bengali originally from England, and that's you understand that properly, and then start looking at things in a deeper level. Right? So it's not here's kind of somewhat superficial. In the US, yeah, he's like a chaplain somewhere. Okay. وإن لم تكن مميزة ولا عادة وهي المبتدأ ففيها قولان مجدا. والثاني تحيد غربة. وإن كانت لها عادة فنسيت عددها ووقتها ففيها قولان. So this is the متحيرة. She doesn't know what she's doing. أحدهما أنها كالمبتدأة. Okay, so you don't know what's going on, sister. You don't know when your periods, you can't remember how long your period usually lasts. No. And you don't know when in the month it usually starts. No. Okay, so we're going to just say bare minimum then. We're going to go with the asl, let it go to the minimum. The mutiyaqan, al-qadr mutiyaqan is 1 day. خلاص. والثاني وهو الصحيح أنه لا يطأها الزوج وتغتسل لكل فريضة وتصوم شهر رمضان ثم تسور شهرا آخر فيصح لها من ذلك 28 يوما ثم تصوم 6 أيام من 18 يوما 3 في أولها و3 في آخرها فيصح لها منها ما بقي من الصوم وإن كانت ناسية للوقت ذاكرة للعدد أو ناسية للعدد ذاكرة للوقت فكل زمان تيقن فيه حيضها جعلناها فيه حائضا وكل زمان تيقن طهرها جعلناها طاهرا وكل زمان شككنا فيه جعلناها في الصلاة طاهرا وفي الوطء حائضا. Right. So what's happening here? It says that so one position is mentioned, we just say it's 24 hours. The correct position is we basically assume the worst of both scenarios. So we say we don't know when she's menstruating, so therefore husband cannot sleep with her. Because that's haram. He cannot anything to do. We assume that she's divorced, so anything that's haram while she's on her period, such as divorcing her, such as sleeping with her, such as her being in the masjid, reciting Quran, etc., is haram. At the same time, everything that's obligatory when she's not menstruating is also obligatory. So وَتَغْتَسِلُ لِكُلِّ فَرِيضَةٍ, she makes a ghusl for every single fard prayer, and she prays every single fard prayer. وَتَصُومُ شهر رمضان, she also fasts Ramadan, assuming because we're not sure when she's on her period. ثم تصوم شهرا آخر. Right? So now we know فيصح لها من ذلك 28 يوما. Right? So we now know that she definitely fasted 28 days because we don't know when she was on her period, but at least 28 days of that total period is definitely fasted. So now there's 2 more days, or 1 or 2 more days that she could possibly have to fast, depending on how long Ramadan was. ثم تصوم 6 أيام
I'm lost
من
here, Sheikh.
من 18 يوما 3 في أولها وآخرها. 1 second. Let me just see how he explains it here. So the issue is basically she is trying to cover her back from all scenarios. So she fasts the month of Ramadan, and by fasting Ramadan, she's done at least, she has done at least 2 weeks of it, right? Because we don't know when either day she could be fast, she could be on her period or not, right? Either day she could be on her period or not. So she's done at least 2 weeks like that. Where are we here? So we said وتصوم شهر رمضان ثم تصوم شهرا آخر فيصح لها من ذلك 28 يوما, right? So we know at least in between in these 2 months of fasting, she's done at least 28 days. ثم تصوم ست. So now she now has 1 or 2 days left, because she has to do 29 days or 30 days. ثم تصوم 6 أيام من 18 يوما 3 في أولها و3 في آخرها. So now she's going to get this 18-day period. She's going to fast the first 3 days, and she's going to fast then the last 3 days. So she fasts day 1, 2, and 3, and day 16, 17, 18. So she's had this period in between. So now she's definitely fasted. It's now impossible. So in those 18 days, she's now definitely. Why was it 18 days? Why not 17 days though? I know why. Because she might have started a period in the daytime. So imagine if she started her period at the end of one of the three days. So basically now she's guaranteed. So if you can imagine that she's on her period on the first 15 days, right? Let me do this on the diagram here, okay? 1 second. So she had. We assume that she needs to do 2 more days, okay? How do I do this? For sure. We got 1. Oops. What's going on here? Yeah. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Fourteen, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so now let's assume this. Let's assume that she's menstruating for these 15 days. Okay? In which case, 3 counted. But imagine if it was like this. You see, it's like this. So it ended in the middle of the first day. Sorry, it started in the middle of the first day, so that first day didn't count. And it ended in the middle of the second day. So notice that's why she has to do 18 days. Because she's trying to make up these 2 days. If it ended in the middle of the first day, that means she wasn't fasting it. So it started in the middle of the first day, she wasn't fasting that day, and it ended in the middle of the second, in the middle of 16. That means when she was fasting 16, it didn't count either. So that's why she basically has to do 15, right? So she's fasting these 3 days because she might be menstruating here, and then she fasts these three. She also fasts these 3 days, okay? And again, it might start here. So she did day 1, day 2, and then it may have started in the middle of 3 and ended in the middle of 18. So in which case she definitely did 2 days. Does that make sense?
So the
So
assumption that she has a period of 18 days or
yeah,
15
we're
days?
going maximum possibility. We have no idea, right? So we're just saying, how is it possible if she now fasts if she now fasts a total of, if she now fasts a total of 2 months, she's definitely done her 28 days. And now, if Ramadan was 29 days, then she has to do 17 days, right? Which is 15 plus a day either side that can get messed up, plus one, or 18 days if it's 30 days. And we now know that she's definitely done, right? So she practically fasted 2 months and 6 days. But now we know definitely that she has fasted those days now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right. So that's what's happening there, right? So it sounds funny, but it's just maths basically. So that's a stupid situation to be in, right? So you say, sister, why are you in this situation? Just know what's going on. You should have an idea of what's going on. It doesn't make any sense, right? For the phrase in Arabic as well. العوان لا تعلم الخمرة. العوان لا تعلم الخمرة. Khimra is how to put on your khimar. How to put on your khimar, right? فعل means how to do something, right? Jilsa, how to sit. Al-awan means a teenage girl. It's like you don't have to teach a teenage girl how to put a khimar on. Like she knows already. So unfortunately many people are immature, right? Women, for example, immature with their food, right? Eat trash, for example, on their periods all over the place. Even what's it called? Chemical contraception. It's pretty reckless. Like it's not a very clever thing to do, you know. It's like I turn up at some what's the person what is it the hormones, what's it called, and the doctors that do
Endocrinologist, yeah.
endocrinologist. Hey, Jack, give me some testosterone boost. I'm trying to build some muscles. That's a reckless way of doing things. You don't just give people testosterone injections, do you? So similar things with chemical contraception. It's not it's kind of reckless. It's not a very I mean, for some women, they've tried it in the past. It's okay for them. Things come back, but it's not. It's kind of a bit of your hormones are quite sensitive, and it's not just whether you get pregnant or not, right? Or whether you have a period or not. There's a whole bunch of things, right? And it's like a ripple effect, right? So it's we got to be kind of gentle with our bodies and gentle with these systems. These systems are complex, and you also have to be responsible, right? You're eating trash. You don't know what's going on. You have no idea when your period is and when's coming, and then you come to the mufti saying, "I don't know what to do." Right? It's a silly situation to be in. Wallahu alam. You have to, husband and wife should be aware of these things, right? They should be cognizant of these things and be aware and what's going on emotionally, what's going physically, what's going on chemically, what's going on. All of these things. They it's very important to be aware of. Okay.
So wallahi, regardless, Sheikh, just thank you. I always thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm a male.
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah. So it's like a car evolving into a car factory, and then evolving back, right? So like a car cannot fix the smallest part in itself. It cannot do that, right? A car is not able to fix itself at all, let alone procreate. So now the car is going through chemical changes in order to turn into a car factory. That's an insane thing to do, right? Changing from a girl to a woman, right? That's an insane thing to do, right? Then to get pregnant, and then to deliver, and then all these things, and then to undo them, right? To unbecome a woman and become a girl again, right? Menopause, right? It's tough. It was very tough, emotionally, physically, chemically, everything, right? One sheikh, he said what he said he said something like, someone's complaining about his wife. He says, oh, so you mean your wife doesn't hit you? Like like meaning his surprise was like, it's not just you go through mood changes, it's like actually genuine violence, right? Like genuine violence. This is something that is actually expected, because if depending on the different changes, it's very dangerous, right? It's very dangerous and very difficult, right? It's quite a hard thing to do. Huge shifts in how you see things, and that's why any woman who is self-aware, she will thank Allah, that Allah didn't put her in charge, right? Because you just be aware. I've heard many women say this, right? Alhamdulillah, I'm not women in charge, because it would be terrible, right? There's certain situations that's like this is a it's not fair for a woman to be in charge, because it's this you're dealing with too much, right? And then men also have to be cognizant of that, and not to treat many women have many many females have many male qualities. They can do work like men can do work, and they can make decisions, and they can calm situations down, and they have wisdom. But at the end of the day, she's not a man, and you have to be cognizant of that. And that doesn't mean to look down upon them. Is that mercy and kindness, right? It's like this is how it is. Like my cat, uh, he's very he's very gentle, very nice, but if he gets into the kitchen, he will go to the birds. Like we have little canaries or little budgies in the kitchen. Like he will go there. Like he's just hardwired to go and look at the birds, right? And you hear this, what's happening is like, and you kicked him out again, kick him out again. It's not possible. He's a cat. That's what he's hardwired to be, right? Right. So exactly, the hardwired to do something. So it's like the haqq of a woman is that she be recognized as a woman. That's a haqq, right? That is not condescending. That is not sexist. Not anything. That's a haqq. That's a luxury that she has, right? Is that you can tell a man snap out of it, but for a woman she might not be able to snap out of it. Chemically cannot snap out of it, right? That's it's very important to understand that, right? And unfortunately, many men act like menstruating women. Subhanallah. It's like subhanallah, Okay, we did that. وإن كانت ناسية للوقت ذاكرة للعدد. So now it's different. So now she knows she only menstruates for 6 days, but she doesn't know when. So now we're going to replay the whole thing, but we're going to put in a block in 6 days. It's going to be slightly easier. So when she fasts Ramadan, she knows, okay, I've definitely done when she says I've definitely done she just fasts 30 days of Ramadan, then she's missed 6 plus 1, because the period could start it could start in the day or end of the day. So plus 1, right? Sorry, so you're going to say 30 minus 6, because she was menstruating 6, plus minus 2, because she could have started in the middle of one and ended in the middle of one, so that didn't count, right? So it's 30. She fasts 30 days, but it's minus 6 minus 2, right? So she has that means she's done 22 days, definitely, right? And then when she fasts another day, right now she might be menstruating, so that doesn't count. She fasts the second day, she might end in the middle of that one, so she's going to have to do 8 days. Sorry, she has how many days left? She said she has 8 days left.
Yes.
So she has 8 days left. So she's going to have to basically fast for 8 plus 2 plus 6, right? So 16, if she's fasting now for 16 days, she'll definitely have made up those days. Is that correct? Yeah. So we said, where did the 2 come from? Is that the fact that she could have just started her period in the fast and ended it during the fast. So there's always these 2 days that she has to do that won't count. So that 2 is always there. And then there's her habit, which is 6. And then we move that around in order to make sure that she completes the remaining fast of Ramadan, right? So the point is, she has a habit. So she knows, what is it? Her adad. Where do we say that? وإن كان نسيت الوقت ذاكرة العدد. So she knows how many days, she doesn't know when. أو ناسة للعدد ذاكرة للوقت. So we know that she says, I always start my period in the second day of the month, right? And we don't mean, right? So here's another issue, is you say, what do you mean by month? So in principle, her cycle, right? When a woman's cycle is going normally, it should normally be about 28 days, the cycle. It is not going to be a calendar month, right? It's actually going to be a lunar month. But it doesn't have to be like that, right? So she might say, I have a cycle. My cycle is actually 25 days. Every 25 days, I menstruate for 6 days, right? That's her cycle, right? That's important to understand that. So when you say she knows when, what do you mean when? By the Roman calendar, Gregorian calendar? Do you mean by the moon, or do you mean by her cycle? She knows her cycle, right? Some women might have, for example, a 40-day cycle. She might have a 20-day cycle. The minimum cycle could be 16 days, right? 24 hours of menstruating, 15 days of purity. That's her cycle. It's every 16 days, right? So that's what we're talking about. So she knows when in that cycle it starts, right? But she doesn't know how long it lasts for, in which case we're going to say 15 days, right? Okay. فكل زمان تيقنا فيه حيضها جعلناها فيه حائضا وكل زمان تيقنا طهرها جعلناها طاهرا وكل زمان شككنا فيه جعلناها في الصلاة طاهرا in أي واجبات طاهرا and things that are things that are haram حائضا وكل زمان احتمل انقطاع الدم فيه whenever it's possible أمرناها بالغسل وإن حاضت المرأة, okay, then it's going to the next thing, right? Whenever it's possible that she's pure, then we're going to say go and make ghusl. Okay, the new point, it says وإذا حاضت المرأة حرم الاستمتاع بها فيما بين السرة والركبة وقيل يحرم الوطء في الفرج وحده والمذهب الأول. So this is the ikhtiyar of Imam Nawawi and others, right? Is what is haram is intercourse itself. And the third position doesn't mention here is that what is haram is intercourse so there's three positions. One is navel to knee is haram. Second position is navel to knee is haram if you fear that it leads to intercourse. A third position is the only thing that's haram is intercourse. Right? So the relied upon position of all those three positions, the correct one, the madhab, is al-awwal, which is navel to knee. So when you say navel to me, do you mean istimta' or do you mean mubashara? Again, the late school, even I believe Ibn Hajar in different books, he uses different words. Al-mubashara is skin-to-skin contact, whether or not it's sexual. Al-istimta' is sexual, whether or not it involves skin-to-skin contact. Right? And again, subhanAllah, here I remember, Mufti Mink, I like listening to Mufti Mink. There's lots of interesting things to say. And so one thing, he was actually talking about this. He was talking about relations while a woman is on her period. So this is the position of the Hanbali school. It is the official position of the Hanbali school, and it's also the position of Imam Muhammad in the Hanafi school and the position of Imam Nawawi, right? And so why is it interesting? Because Mufti Mink is somebody who talks to people, right? He travels the world and gives conferences. And this is not some kind of random fiqh scenario, like theoretically. The fact that he spoke about it publicly, it's there on YouTube with I don't know how, again, million people viewers, it is an issue, right? So again, I don't understand how all these things work, but basically, as a woman goes through her cycles, she has different emotions and different physical sensations, right? And some women are extremely in the mood at different stages of the period, right? That's number one. And so you can imagine, again, I don't know, I haven't had this question put to me, but he's in his work with people, that people complain like this is an issue, this is a woman who's like, this is actually really difficult, right? So whereas a man, usually his cycle is like a 24-hour cycle or 48-hour cycle or whatever it is, for a woman, you can have these cycles and it can be very, very difficult for her in those stages. Or, for example, in a situation where the husband and wife are traveling and they're never together and they're only together at certain times of the month or whatever, it can be very difficult. So anyway, this is a valid rukhsa, and it may be useful for certain people at certain times, but the default is the three madhab, Shafis, Malikis, and Hanafis say it's haram, right? You cannot, that's the default, right? So the default is that would not be done. Okay, وحرم الصلاة وحرم عليها الصلاة وسقط عنها فرضها, right? So why is it that she doesn't repeat her prayers? Why do you think? Why is it that a woman repeats her fast but doesn't repeat her prayers? So we know there's a nas. Aisha radiallahu anha was asked that question. She said there's a nas. Khalas. So what is our legal reason? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not done it. But why do you think Allah has not done it? Why is it that a woman has to make up her fasts, which could be 2 weeks, right? She could make up 2 weeks of fasts. No one else is fasting. It is difficult, right? Whereas, and her prayer, but she doesn't have to make up her prayers.
Would it
That's
just
a
be,
Go ahead, Brother Moses. But
I was just gonna say, would it just be too difficult?
yeah, I was going
Okay,
to
well,
say
what's the difficulty? What's the difference of difficulty? What's the
because
If
she's
difficulty?
gonna have a period again soon.
Okay, so here's a question. Al-mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir, right? Difficulty causes for ease. But when? What kind of i'tibarat, what kind of things are we looking for in a mashaqqa? What about it being nadir? Is it something nadir?
mm,
So when we're looking at al-mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir, we ask the question, is this a darura, brother or sister? It's not a darura, right? So there's no darura for her not to make up the fasts or not to make up the prayers. Okay, it's not darura. Okay. So now we're going to say, is this something that is recurrent? Yes. Is it something that applies to everybody? Yes. And is something that's really difficult, right? So really difficult is not necessarily the case, right? Because there are people who have to do lots of qada prayers. So there's really, really difficult. Okay. So now we look at how difficult something is. Like, could we treat it like a darura? Like it's almost on the edge of being a darura. It's not really a darura, it's always almost on the edge. Is it widespread and is it recurrent? Okay, so widespread, recurrent, really, really difficult. These are these kind of generally three things that we're going to look at. So for making up the fast of Ramadan, is it recurrent?
yes.
I mean,
Yes,
yes, every year, but not recurrent, but it's less recurrent, right? So in terms
Yes.
of, so you should know the difference. So now we're like, oh, look, so this is how the fuqaha work. There's a nas, khalas, there we go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told her she has to make up her fasts, she doesn't have to make her prayers. Khalas, end of story. Jazakum khair, end of conversation. That's all we need. But then we, in retrospect, we're like, oh, look, there's this system that your Sharia asks me, this is how the Sharia works. It bends rules, even if it's not a darura. Either Sharia doesn't just change for darura, it changes for things that are less than darura, had difficulty, right? That is less than duress, right? It's not when it's, for example, recurrent. When, for example, it is widespread, right? It applies to all women. When it's widespread, when it is recurrent, when it is very difficult, right? Yaska, that's a very hard thing to do, right? So, for example, a woman who, woman who na'idda, can she leave the house if the house is going to fall down on her head? Yes. Okay, what about this? The woman who na'idda, who is living with her in-laws and they're giving her grief. They're like, oh, you killed your husband. We know you killed her every single day. We're going to find out. You just wait. Right? Her husband just died, and her mother-in-law is telling her, yeah, you killed my son. You just wait till I find out proof, and you killed him. Why did you kill him? You just wanted his money. This goes on and on and on. We say, Khalas, sister, you can leave. We treat that even though even it's not recurrent, and even if it's not widespread, we treat it as if it was a darura because it's very difficult. Notice that? So we can treat certain situations that are that even if it's not recurrent, and even if it's not recurrent and it's not widespread, because it's very difficult, right? Excruciating pain in prayer, right? It's treated as darura, even though it's not. It's not darura,
Mm.
right?
So here what we're saying is that it's treated as a darura, even though on a technicality
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah. Yeah, so in this scenario here, we see the difference between prayer and fasting is one's recurrent, I mean yearly. The other one's really recurrent, meaning monthly, right? So it's recurrent, so therefore, therefore you don't have to make up the prayers, whereas you do have to make up the fast because it's not recurrent in the same way, right? Just like najasa that comes out a certain place in your body, that's recurrent, whereas vomit is not recurrent. So it's, there's no rukhsas that apply to vomiting in general, right? Because it's not recurrent. Whereas other than najasa, that's normal, right? So the point is, when we're looking at al-haja tanzil manzil darura or mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir, we're looking at how widespread is it, how recurrent is it, and how difficult is it in itself, right? It might be so hard in itself that even if it's not recurrent and even if it's almost specific to you, right? We're going to say, khalas, that's hard enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
As opposed to khalas, din yusr ya sheikh, right? This is what people will say. Like, what do you mean by that, Habibi? Because is it true that every single difficulty will cause for taysir? In which case, it's hard for me to pray on time. I find it very difficult to pray on time. Right? It's not impossible, right? I come along and say, let's say something else. You say, medicine should be affordable. Okay, sure. Let's make it affordable. Let's make it a tenth of the price. You say, no, Sheikh, yeah, medicine should be affordable. Let's make it a hundredth of the price. Medicine should be affordable. Let's make it a millionth of the price. Medicine should be affordable. What does that mean, affordable? Right? Meaning we look at, you have to pay for something, right? The government has to run these things. Somebody has to pay for something at some point, right? That has to be affordable. So what does affordable mean, right? You're going to have to look at something that's reasonable. So when you go down and say, a deen yusri ya sheikh, that doesn't mean every single difficulty. كل مشقة ولو كانت ضئيلة جدا, تجلب التيسير. Doesn't make any sense. Because we see مئات الأمثلة, right? We see a million examples that it's not like that. Hajj is super hard, right? I'm in America, I spent $15,000 and I could even lose my job, right? I could lose my job, I went on extended holiday and I came back and said, sorry, we have to lay people off and we're not renewing your contract because last year you went off for like 2 weeks. You might lose your job, right? You might have to, you have to spend money. It was really hard. So كيف الدين يسر, I don't want to wake up for Fajr, it's cold. I'm tired, right? So we're gonna have to say, no, it's recurrent, and it's widespread, and it is and it's very or it's very hard, right? To ask people on an individual level, that's very difficult, right? It's close enough to darura to be treated as a darura, right? So this is very important, as opposed to something that's negligible, or as opposed to a specific difficulty which is sort of in and of itself. What does that mean? A difficulty that is sort of in and of itself. So there's a difficulty that is recurrent and widespread, but that difficulty is sort of in and of itself. Like what? Like the difficulty of leaving your house to go on Hajj. That's widespread, applies to everybody who's not living in Mecca. Recurrent. But it's sort of in and of itself. That's the whole point, Habibi. You're supposed to leave your house. That's the whole point. So you can't say that the difficulty of leaving my house is an excuse for me not to go on Hajj. It's not. Or the loss of money in which obligation? Loss of money. You say the maqasid sharia is saving money. Okay, I would lose my money if I did which obligation in Islam? Hajj or
Zakat.
So does the din yusr ya sheikh, right? So does the loss of money, حفظ المال, right? So I come up and say, قاعد يتفلسف this sheikh, right? You say zakat is no longer obligatory because of maqasid al-sharia, it's حفظ المال, right? So like, why is that wrong? Is because the maqsood of zakat is that you have there is a reduction in your money, right? At least like on a outward level, right? Like you're supposed to take away. So your loss of money is maqsood min haythu huwa, right? So that can't be an excuse, could it? Okay, what about the hunger of fasting? Every single me, you, everybody, when we fast Ramadan, we get hungry. Oh, it's okay, خلاص, الدين يسر, right? So now he said, doesn't make any sense. That mashaqqa, that difficulty is maqsood min haythu, the ju' is maqsood, right? I lose time when I pray. Right? That's maqsood. That's the whole point. Like you're supposed to stop what you're doing, go and pray. I lost time, I lost 5 minutes, lost 10 minutes, lost whatever it is, right? That's maqsood, right? In jihad, oh, I might die. The risk, so hifth al-haya is of the maqasid al-sharia. So does that mean that I don't have to go and defend the weak? I might die defending the weak? No, it doesn't, because it's maqsood min haythu huwa. So when we say ad-din yusr, we're talking about ad-din yusr, talking about darurat tubih al-mahdhurat, والحاجة تنزل منزل حاجة تنزل منزل الضرورة إذا عمت. Okay, أو اشتدت أو أو تكررت, right? That's what we're talking about, as opposed to مشقة ضئيلة, right? محتملة, right? خفيفة, right? أو مشقة أو ضرر مقصود من حيث هو, right? It's sort of in and of itself, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now the issue then is we are going to debate often, is this considered a مشقة تافهة, يعني محتملة or not? Some people say, no, this is difficult. Some people say it's not difficult, right? They'll look at different ways. So that there will be, in terms of the ijtihad of the muftin or ijtihad of the mujtahid imams, is this considered? So the debate between Ibn Hajar and Ramli on, so Ibn Hajar says you're standing in prayer really, really, really hurts your back. Okay, so he says really, really, or really, 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 really. He says no, like really, like I'm almost screaming in pain. Like it's مشقة لا تحتمل عادة. It's unbearable, right? It's an unbearable pain. Okay, so Ibn Hajar says sit down, right? Ramli says, Habibi, it's well before that, because this mashaqqa tudhibul khushu', right? This is an alam yudhibul khushu'. You're not able to focus. So he's going to say, look, it's way less than that. It's something that, can you, while you're praying, can you focus? So no, I cannot focus with this pain. Okay, khalas, sit down, right? If standing hurts you so much that it doesn't harm you, so the doctor says totally fine, not a problem. It's just going to really hurt, if you stand up. But it's not a problem. It doesn't really matter. So the pain itself, is it? So there's debate there, right? Or washing inside your beard, right? Is that considered something that's too difficult to ask somebody to wash inside their beard or not? Debated, right? So we say in the Shafi'i school, yeah, it's too difficult. You'd have to do it in ghusl, but not in wudu because it's recurrent. Others are saying, it's not a big deal. Just wash inside your beard, not a big deal. What's the problem? Right. So you're going to see this, within the madhahib, between the madhahib, debate on these kind of things. But we're all going to agree that darurat tubih al-mahdhurat. And we're going to all agree in principle that al-haja tanzil manzil darura, right? And we're all going to agree in principle that a difficulty that is not significant is going to be overlooked, right? And again, I mentioned to many of you, mentioned again, what I saw in Jordan of people joining prayers because it's winter. Like, so it's negligible difficulty, right? It's colder than it was yesterday. Well, it's always hotter or colder, right? So, I mean, every single day is either hotter than it was yesterday or colder than it was yesterday. It's never exactly the same. So that's a negligible change, right? The Sharia doesn't work like that, like negligible things, right? So the fact that it's winter allows you to join Dhuhr and Asr for 3 months of the year because it's winter, It's going to be something significant, like, oh, it's like snowing. It's, something mu'tabar, right? Something that's significant, right? And in reality, in the Shafi'i school, you can't join for snow. in the Shafi school. But anyway, the point is that the way the Sharia works is it looks at things that are like genuine difficulty. Like this is an exception to the rule, like it's genuinely hard. Even if it's not a darura, it's got to be something that is, significant, but not something that's insignificant. Like, oh, it happens to be called winter, you know? Because what about summer? Isn't it harder to go? I mean, I think it's harder to go to the mosque in the summer. It's hot, right? What about going in Saudi Arabia? You know, like it's really, really hot, right? I remember I went on a Hajj in February, not this February, like 2011, and I got sunburn, right? So, does that excuse me? Like, you know, it's like, so that, what about in the summer? If Hajj was in the summer, it'd be insane, right? It is dangerous. The heat is dangerous, right? But it's considered, yeah, it's normal. This is normal difficulty that people normally have to deal with, right? Okay, we need to move on. So it mentions it's going to go on to things that you can't do. So we lingered a little bit today, too long, but that's fine. Um, okay, inshallah, let's stop that recording.